Afternoon, everybody. You know, I didn't get a chance to really touch on this much, except for maybe a minute and a half video, and I tried to touch on it a little bit more in my recent comic news video, but I couldn't do that because I mostly dedicated that one to talking about the Newsarama interview with Ian Flynn, which I also talked about more so in a more recent four-part audio video that you're probably looking at right now. But what I want to talk about, honestly, and hopefully I got enough time for this before some of my family comes home from work. What I want to talk about, basically, ladies and gentlemen, is the current Silver the Hedgehog story arc in Sonic Universe. Now, right off the bat, when you take a look at the preview pages of issue 26, and then you read the comic like I did. I read it courtesy of Sonic Comic World on YouTube. Sonic Comic World likes to post, when he has them, he likes to post the comics or the issues, Sonic Universe, Sonic X, Sonic the Hedgehog, all on there, so that people who probably can't afford them or even buy them or even go for a subscription can just read them and give their own thoughts right then and there. But anyway, I read this. I read the comic finally, and or the issue, courtesy of Sonic Comic World on YouTube. And a lot of people have been saying that when they saw the first preview pages and everything, and they read all the descriptions from Palets and stuff like that, a lot of people at first thought, well, this is just Ian adapting Other M. Well, here's the thing about Other M. If you go to the archive section at Sonic HQ, sonichq.net, and then you go to sonicteamverse.net or somewhere, or if you can even get a torrent or find somebody that has access to it, you will find out that Other M was made nearly 10 years ago. I don't know exactly when he started it, but he's been doing it. He did for over 20 issues, almost 25, I think. And he did an interview back in 2002 with SonicHQ.net. I think that's what it was, or SonicHQ.org, I don't know. He did an interview with them about it. And before they interviewed him, they described his Other M webcomic as being darker and twisted. Somebody even complimented that it was more of a PG-13-like webcomic than anything else. In other words, probably think Sonic the Hedgehog comic book under, I don't know, maybe under the DC or Image licensing. Think of it that way. But that's exactly what it was. That's exactly what Other M was. PG-13, maybe a little bit of R. And when the Silver Story arc came around, and all the descriptions, and everything in descriptions and previews were shown and read, a lot of people assumed that it was Other M right off the bat. A lot of people assumed that. But it wasn't. You see, what I said in that minute and a half video that I did about it, the Silver Story arc, called Through, which is given the same title as Other M, which is Through the Looking Glass, it's loosely based on the webcomic Other M. Now I'm not sure, but I know that somewhere down the line, maybe I'm wrong, that Ian himself stated that he probably would never adapt Other M. Now, true, he didn't adapt it, fully, page by page, panel by panel, word for word. He just loosely adapted some of the elements. And he combined it with some other elements of the comic that we'd seen before. See, one of the main elements that he combined it with was the alternate timeline that Lara-Su came from. Now, not Lara-Su, but Lara-Su, I should say. Lara-Su came from. Now, let me explain this. Many years ago, when Lara-Su was first introduced, she was introduced in a backup story with Knuckles. This is when Knuckles, of course, was a living, breathing Chaos Emerald. In other words, he was Green Knuckles, as they call him. And she went back in time to prevent him from dying, or prevent something from happening, so that what would happen in her time wouldn't occur. Now, of course, she didn't accomplish this. And we find out so later on in this issue, which is issue 26. And because of this, and due to the fact that her father, Knuckles, had turned his back on everybody, turned evil, and once again became Lara-Jack, she decided to change her name. And no longer in this timeline is she known as Lara-Su, but instead she's known as Jana Ka. Now there are some, like I said, some references and some elements, character designs and everything from Other M that you see in the comic. You see in the Silver Story arc. For example, you take a look at Rotor's design, you take a look at Antoine's design, you take a look at Fiona's, Bunny's, and Bean's, and they're all the same design that you saw in Other M. Except there's a difference. Same designs, different names. Even Bark is in there as well. But these are all they got different names. Now I can't name them all because I'd have to look at the comic again, and if I do that, I'm going to lose everything here on this audio video. Because I'm using Windows Movie Maker. But anyway, some of the names that are given are Demo Duck, Scarlet O'Hare, or Scarlet Rabbit, Dagger, and a few, and I can't think of Antoine's. It's something like Deluxe or Deluxe Mew or something like that. And Barks I can't think of right now either. Now, the reason for the name changes obviously is to kind of show that the elements are from Other M, but he doesn't want to give acknowledgement all the way. Now, oh yeah, and Fiona's name is Payback Fox. Go figure. Now there is another difference as well. You see, in Other M, the Prelates, in other words, the evil Dark Legion, or the evil Chaotix, in which Lara-Su, Vector, SBO were all a part of, including Tails, their names have been changed. Well, the names haven't been changed. It's more the fact that, well, the designs have changed. See, instead of them being like Dark Legion, Commanders, and all that, they're now known as Robotic Prelates. And basically, as it was described in this issue, basically what Lara-Jack, Knuckles, does is he uses his power to take the core, the life force, if you will, of a character, extract it out of the body, manipulate it, and turn it into a prelat. In other words, what people had been suspecting about these life forces being taken out of people, or taken out of the characters, is exactly what's going on. They're being turned into these prelats. Now we find out that there is a similar element, but it's used differently. You see, in Other M, the Sword of Acorns was used to try to cure the world. But what Tails did instead, in Other M, is he used it to plunge it into the Chaos Emerald and try to destroy the timeline and world that they were in. What the Sword of Acorns does here is it's supposed to restore, according to Jenna Ka / Lara-Su, it's supposed to restore the souls of the prelates back into Mobians. In other words, that last page that you guys saw in issue 25, with all the characters hanging on the wall, blank stares and everything, no eyes, mouths wide open. What many consider probably one of the most disturbing images they've ever seen in a Sonic the Hedgehog related comic. Those would be returned to normal if the Sword of Acorns can rescue the cores, or the souls of the people. The life force, that is. But, again, that's just an element similar, but not the same. You see, a lot of people, when this happens, a lot of people always assume that Other M is being adapted. It's not being adapted. It's being loosely adapted. Elements from it are being adapted. And yes, I believe that Ian did say down the line, I think when he came on board officially as the head writer, that he wasn't going to use Other M. He wasn't going to adapt it. But I guess he decided to change his mind. My thought is this, folks. I believe what Ian decided was he was going to probably do something that had the elements and the atmosphere of Other M, but he had to wait. In other words, he had to wait to a certain time frame. And then I'm not sure when he started working on the Silver Story arc, but I'm pretty sure it was around the time that he and everybody else got word that very soon Archie Comics would be dropping the comics code. That's the only thing I can think of, folks. Is that when he started working on it and trying to figure out what he could put into it, that's when they probably got word that, hey, at this time next year, we won't have the comic codes we won't be using the comic code anymore. I'm pretty sure that's when he decided to go in this direction. I could be wrong. But again, to straighten something out, Other M is not being adapted into the Silver Story arc, only certain elements. And there are certain things that have taken the place of certain other characters. Like, for example, Silver, in a way, has taken the place of Sonic. Believe it or not. Excuse me. And Jenna Ka, or Lara-Su, is obviously taking the place of Sally as leader of the Freedom Fighters. Now, the one thing people will say about this, fans have agreed, is they like the new design Ura-Jack's gotten, and they like the kind of twist that's been given. The fact that Knuckles is still being portrayed as the villain, but he's being portrayed as the villainous Ura-Jack. Now, again, some fans don't particularly like the fact that Other M has been adapted, even if it has some of its elements being put into the story arc. But, it's not the first time something like that has happened. I'm pretty sure there's a lot of writers right now, current writers at Marvel Comics, working on titles like X-Men and Spider-Man and Fantastic Four, or should I say Future Foundation, if you will. The Hulk, Spider-Woman. I'm pretty sure a lot of them at Marvel that work on these titles have all been in the position that Ian was in back in 2002 and probably 2001 when he started working on this Other M series. 2000, 2001, maybe 2000. Between those 2 years, the first 2 years of the last decade, 2000, 2002, I'm pretty sure a lot of them have been in that same position. A lot of them have made their own web comics. A lot of them have made their own fan fiction.